Enter a mysterious girl being chased in space, and just as she is about to be captured, she manages to escape. Meanwhile, on Earth, at Seinen High School, a boy named Yuki Rito plans on confessing to the girl of his dreams, Saranji Haruna. But he's quite shy on how to approach her, and whenever he tries to confess his feelings, something inconvenient happens and gets in his way. After school, as Haruna is about to walk by, just when he is about to confess to her, the spaceship from earlier crash lands and nearly crushes him. As such, Rito returns home sulking over yet another failed mission to confess. Thus, he goes to his room and begins to talk with his best friend Sariyama Kenichi, who understands him very well and is not surprised by another failure. However, Sariyama advises him to learn how to get used to being around girls. Meanwhile, Rito continues to sulk in the bathtub. Suddenly, the mysterious girl from before appears in front of him, causing him to accidentally be sussy. Later in his room, the girl introduces herself as Lala Satalin Deviluke, an alien from the planet Deviluke. She explains that she used a magical invention to randomly teleport into the tub to avoid being captured. Her companion robot, Peak, arrives as well and reunites with her. Suddenly, Maul and Smuts, the ones who pursued Lala, come into the room having followed Peak. Now in a predicament, Rito reluctantly helps Lala escape over the rooftops. As they get to normal ground, the men from before catch up to them. Suddenly, another spaceship appears and a man named Zastin Deviluke emerges from it. It is then revealed that Lala is actually a princess running away from home due to arranged meetings for a suitor for her to marry, and the three aliens are here to take her home. Lala then gets a cell phone-like device out and summons the Go-Go Vacuum Kun, a giant octopus-like machine that she uses to suck in Zastin and the others. However, it continues to suck in everything else, including Rito, but Lala doesn't remember how to turn it off. As Rito gets sucked halfway in, the machine gets clogged up and suddenly explodes. The next day, a frustrated Rito doesn't want anything to do with her ever again. On his way to school, he meets up with Haruna. He now thinks it's a good opportunity to confess to her, which he finally does, but he accidentally shyly confesses with his eyes closed to Lala, who coincidentally appears in front of him. Rito has yet again made another epic failure to confess to the girl he truly loves. Lala, however, is happy to hear this and hugs him, saying they are now engaged to be married, much to his dismay. At the Yuki residence, Rito wakes up only to find Lala sleeping next to him, so he falls off his bed in shock. Shortly after, Rito's little sister, Mikan, walks in and sees Lala but is unfazed by her, so she leaves the room normally like nothing ever happened. Peak then transforms into Lala's dress form for her to wear, and she explains that it's normal for people that are engaged to live together, although Rito doesn't recall any sort of proposal. Suddenly, Zastin appears and explains that according to Deviluke traditions, Rito became engaged when he sussy touched her at 8:43 a.m. However, Rito tries to explain the misunderstanding, but Zastin angrily denies, saying that by annulling the engagement would mean declaring war on the planet Deviluke, and the Emperor of the Galaxy will destroy Earth. Zastin continues on to explain that by marrying Lala, he will take her dad's position as king, and it's not a position for weaklings. Back at school, Rito meets up with Sariyama, who noticed that he's depressed due to Haruna, who finally notices Rito but looks away from him. After class, he tries to explain what actually happened, but he follows her to the girls' changing room, which he cannot go into. Elsewhere, as Lala looks for Rito, she manages to attract the attention of the students. As such, Rito hears her and asks what she's doing at his school, and when Sariyama and the boys notice how close they are, Lala reveals to them that she is his bride. Thus, filled with jealousy, the boys begin chasing after him, but Lala saves him by warping them out of there. After school, he once again finds Zastin in his living room with Mikan, who is now informed about his engagement with the alien princess. Now more than ever, Rito finds himself in a desperate situation trying to clear the misunderstanding. Later, Zastin explains that he can actually cancel the engagement within the first 3 days by grabbing Lala's chest again before 8:43 a.m. on the final day, so he embarks on his mission. However, he fails at every chance he gets, and as he continues to try, something inconvenient always gets in his way. On the final day, with 1 hour left, he asks Lala to come with him, and by a river, he asks her about the engagement, which she is very happy about. She also explains that she was always getting pushed into meetings for future candidates, doing so for the sake of the royal throne. After hearing this, Rito gets worried about how she would respond if he broke the engagement. However, his clock rings, noting that his time to cancel the engagement is finally up. The next day, Rito is off to school with Zastin and his subordinates, who congratulate the duo. At school, he begins being sad over the sudden changes in his life, especially about what he should do with Haruna. Nevertheless, his homeroom teacher announces a new transfer student, who turns out to actually be Lala, much to his shock and grief. So he scolds Lala for transferring to his school, but she responds by saying she just wanted to be close to him. Nevertheless, he warns her not to stand out too much or else her true identity will be in jeopardy. However, she ends up doing abnormal things in class like drawing weird pictures and overusing her strength in gym class. At the same time, the boys now resent him due to jealousy regarding Lala. Thus, Rito scolds Lala again, so she promises to be more careful. Elsewhere, Haruna starts thinking about how close Rito is to Lala, and when they encounter each other during an awkward moment, Rito blurts out asking her what she thinks of Lala, only for Haruna to say that they're a good match. Back at his house, Rito becomes saddened due to Haruna's revelation, and upon noticing this, Mikan suggests that they should all go out tomorrow since Lala isn't accustomed to Earth yet. The next day, the siblings show Lala around much to her interest, but she catches the attention of the crowd, so gets peeked to scan other people's clothes, allowing her to transform into a more suitable outfit. Afterwards, Rito got Lala a doll that she seems to enjoy a lot. Later, Rito notices that Lala's clothes are withering away, signaling that Peek is slowly losing power so her clothes will soon disappear. Thus, the siblings hide Lala away in a sussy store, while Mikan goes off to find her some clothes. Meanwhile, they find Haruna close by, where Rito is again worried about what she might be thinking of now. Nevertheless, the group heads towards an aquarium and Lala also invites Haruna to tag along. Upon arriving, Lala starts running around and gets utterly excited at the sight of multiple fish species, causing Rito to be embarrassed. However, Haruna apologizes for seemingly bothering them, but Rito denies it by saying it's fun having more people. At the same time, Mikan finally notices Rito's feelings for Haruna, so she decides to be his wingman and goes looking for Lala. Now alone, Haruna grabs him by the arm and begins to attempt her confession, only to be suddenly interrupted by a flood. Earlier, it's revealed that a lost Lala attempted to add more water to the fish tanks only to accidentally flood the area. As such, Lala comes in like a wrecking ball on top of a shark, while the rest frantically try to escape from the flooding aquarium. Nevertheless, at the end of the day, Haruna still says she really had some fun. Mission accomplished. The next day, as head off to school, Rito seems to be in a happier mood than usual. Coincidentally, they also encounter Haruna on their way, but Rito accidentally trips and falls on her in a sussy way, only for Haruna to run after punishing him. At a misty lake in Rito's dream, he tells Haruna that he has no relationship with Lala, and just as he was about to confess, two huge balloons suddenly inflate on his face. He then wakes up only to find Lala in his bed again, much to his shock. At breakfast, Lala gets overexcited on how warm it is, only for Zastan to pop in and explain that as the Princess of Deviluke, they'd have to check for food poisoning, causing it to go cold. Back at the school rooftop, a saddened Rito is greeted by Zastan, who threatens him and asks if he has any second thoughts at all about his engagement. Zastan then continues by telling him that the marriage will make him the next king of Deviluke. As such, he will have to lead intergalactic wars in expanding or defending his kingdom, only for Rito to imagine himself losing. Nevertheless, at home, Mikan prepares dinner for everyone, including Zastan, who along with Lala have taken extreme liking to the food. Lala then decides to cook Deviluke food. However, her cooking skills leads to the burning of the whole kitchen, and when she has Rito to try her concoction, he nearly died. Thus, Rito tells her that he won't marry someone who can't cook, which hurts Lala's feelings, so she flies off into space with Zastan right behind her. The next day, Rito tries to convince himself that it's better this way, but much to his surprise, Lala cheerfully shows up at class. He then explains to her how he doesn't want to take part in intergalactic wars, although Lala explains that he doesn't have to if he doesn't want to. Lala then states that once they're married, she would stay with him on Earth. She then revealed that she gathered ingredients from space to cook for him, and as she prepares to cook, she gets the ingredients out of her chili container con. Meanwhile, Haruna, on the search for the two of them, finally comes in and asks what's going on. So Rito tries to explain the situation, but a huge octopus appears out of Lala's invention and grabs Haruna. Eventually, Rito and Lala are grabbed as well, so Zastan comes in to rescue them, but is stopped by a gigantic squid. Zastan then gets up only to be stopped by a giant lobster, followed by a giant worm-like creature who joins in on the fight, causing much destruction upon the school. Thus, Rito claims that this is worse than an intergalactic war.